Okay, here we go on topic 4, section 3, which is timber, part of our final production. When we're talking about timber, we're talking about wood and products made of wood and products kind of like wood. Um, some are natural, some are human made. Major building material, it's renewable, uses the sun's energy to renew itself in a continuous cycle, uses less energy and results in less air and water pollution than steel or concrete. The potential issue you deal with here is deforestation. So on the left, you can see a house. This is how most of our houses are built. They're mainly wood. And then we cover them with stuff so that the wood doesn't rot. On the bottom right, you can see an area that was clear cut. Pretty good example of what deforestation could look like. It leads to erosion and the degradation of that natural environment. But as you all know, trees are producers. They get their energy from the sun. Okay, we're going to talk about the characteristics of natural timber. There's two main branches that you need, get it, branches, that you need to be familiar with: hardwoods and softwoods. So your softwoods are going to be your coniferous evergreen trees, tend to grow up in northern United States, Canada, Russia, and northern Europe. They are a softer wood because for a good chunk of the year, they don't grow very much because it's too cold and the days are too short. So when it is good weather for growing and the days are warm enough and long enough, they need to grow fast. That causes the wood to be softer. Our hardwoods are deciduous trees, which means they lose their leaves every year and will grow new ones in the spring. These tend to be more tropical areas, places where it's warmer more throughout the year, and they tend to grow throughout the year. And because they are growing more consistently throughout the year, it allows the tree to be harder. Oftentimes, we find one of these woods more desirable than the other, and it really depends on the application. If we're building a house, framing a house, most of the time we're going to use softwoods. If you're putting down flooring in your kitchen and living room, you're going to want to use hardwoods. Okay, the characteristics of man-made timbers. When we break down timber, you have off to the left here, we have natural solid timber. That means it came from a tree and we cut it into some kind of plank. Or you have what's called engineered timber products. Those are your man-made products. And it's going to be things like your plywoods, fiber boards, particle boards, block board, laminates, and veneers. We can treat our timbers so that they last longer. On the left, you see that these two gentlemen are staining that wood. It's protecting it from the outside to make sure that the wood on the inside doesn't get affected by water or whatever else it might be come in contact with. On the left, sorry, on the right, what you're seeing, this green tinted wood, is what we consider pressure treated wood. Now, back in the day, it used to be green. Nowadays, it tends to be more of a red. I think people find the red a little more aesthetically pleasing. They decided the green didn't look as good. But they pressure treat this wood, and what it does is it reduces the amount of microbial life in there and rot. So that a plank of wood that may have otherwise only lasted a few years can easily last 20, 30, 40 years before it starts to break down and rot. Recovery and disposal of timbers. On a slide like this, IB in their curriculum had a statement that said recovery and disposal of timbers and didn't say anything about exactly what they wanted there. So I just put a couple pictures on here and you can kind of think to yourself, I wonder how much of the time we actually recover wood and find other ways to use it. Sometimes we do, and it's called reclaimed wood. But a lot of times it just gets landfilled. So tensile strength, same thing. They wrote tensile strength, which you need to know that timber actually has a very high tensile strength and compressive strength. And that's why we like to build housing and building structures with wood. As far as tensile, what does that mean? Here's a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, and what you can see about these cables, it says cables under tension. Basically, they're like huge suspenders. So you have these large cables that come up and over the main pillars on here or columns. And then the bridge itself is just hanging from these cables. So these cables are under a lot of tension to hold that bridge. So we call it a suspension bridge. Resistance to damp environments. Naturally, wood really isn't, which is a good thing because our forests would be covered in dead trees, which in Colorado they are because of the beetle kill, but eventually that'll all rot and go away. But wood, timber on its own, naturally isn't super resistant to damp environments. So we have to treat it. Whether we pressure treat it, like the wood that's showing on here on the left, it looks like somebody stapled it all over the place. That's because they were injecting under high pressure an antimicrobial poison, basically, to treat it so nothing can grow and rot it. Sometimes we can paint. Sometimes we find other ways to keep it out of the water. But eventually, your wood over time will start to break down and rot, like you can see in this post. Okay, when we talk about longevity, wood is going to last for hopefully a couple decades, but there are new products out there, man-made products. Here's an example of one. This is a company called Trex. My guess is some of you at your house have decks in your backyard or front yard that have Trex decking or a company similar to Trex. Now, this plank is mostly plastic, but oftentimes they have like sawdust or wood particles in it. But you can see right here, they're saying it won't split, it won't rot, it won't peel, splinter, fade, or stain. And they're not only giving you a 25-year warranty, they're giving you a 50-year warranty, saying that this thing's going to last for a long time. I've seen 100-year warranties on these types of products. Back in the day, they didn't look that good. Nowadays, they actually look really nice. Okay, when we talk about the aesthetic properties of timbers, I think most people would think that natural timber looks really nice. So you have this kind of nice couch or chair or whatever this is on the left. And that, to me at least, is very aesthetically pleasing. I think that looks nice. I would love to go lay down on that and take a nap, maybe with a pillow or a blanket. But it looks nice. This wood deck on the bottom right looks really nice. Now you can see it's stained. That's to help protect the wood so it doesn't start to rot. And the problem is you're going to have to stain it on a regular basis, probably every year or two, to make sure that that wood's protected. But when we look at the man-made plastics that were used for similar type designs, initially they weren't that aesthetically pleasing. We look at this and it looks like plastic. Nowadays, they're looking a whole lot nicer because that was the downside. Nobody wanted something that looked like plastic. International-mindedness. What we want to remember here is that the hardwoods are found mostly in tropical areas. And what you also need to know is that most countries in tropical areas don't have the big economies like what we have here in the United States. Okay, so if you look at these flooring on the bottom left, let's say it's mahogany or cherry, some really desirable hardwood flooring. Is that going to be a renewable resource or not? Is that a wood that's going to replenish itself as quickly as we're going to take it down and use it to put on our flooring so we can walk on it and show our buddies? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay, so the high demand for high quality hardwoods results in a depletion of ancient forests in some countries and regions. Okay, let's say this guy, and I'm making up this story, but it's probably very true for some places. Let's say this guy's got a family and he's got to feed his family. And there's not a whole lot of jobs that pay well in his area, but he's got this beautiful hardwood tree right here. And I don't know what it is. Let's just say it's mahogany. I'm sure it's not, but let's say it is. And he knows that if he cuts this tree down, he can sell it because Americans want to make hardwood flooring out of it. And he could sell it and make enough money to feed his family for several months. Okay. Does that make him a bad person? Or does that make him a good father and a good husband that's providing for his family? So it puts people into a tough position. Aim 9. Designers have great influence over the materials that they specify for their products. Okay? You as a designer, you get to decide how the thing's going to work and what it's made of. So it's good for you to be aware of different materials and what the most appropriate materials are going to be for the products that you're designing. The move toward using timber from sustainably managed forests, that's a great thing. Rainforests have the opportunity to recover. Back in the day, let's just say 200 years ago, when we used to take trees down, we just clear cut it. We just cut everything because the human population was so small. Who cared, right? The trees would grow back eventually. Well, what happened is our population got bigger, our cities got bigger, the demand for wood got higher. A lot of these places that we clear cut never came back. So when they talk about sustainably managed forestry, that's a real thing. Okay, there are ways to harvest the forest where it will come back and it'll be there forever for us to harvest and replenish. It is then a sustainable product. And here's a quick little video on redwood, actual natural wood, versus Trex decking.
Hi, I'm Paul.
And I'm Kate.
And we're about to deck it out. Everybody knows what happens at the family barbecue. Stuff gets spilt. So to demonstrate that today, we are going to make one heck of a mess.
I feel like making a mess comes pretty naturally to you, Paul.
In front of me is a pressure-treated deck that is a stain-absorbing, cracking mess.
And in front of me is a high-performance Trex composite deck that you can spill virtually anything on and it won't stain.
Like ketchup,
Mustard,
barbecue sauce,
red wine,
burgers.
2 burgers.
Oh, yeah. What Kate doesn't know is she's going to clean the wood deck, and I get to clean the Trex deck.
That's not fair.
After you. We've got soapy rags. And Kate, you better get started, because this is going to take me no time at all. Oh, yeah. Done.
Ah!
Did you get a sliver? Oh, she got a sliver. And that's just the pain of trying to clean a wooden deck. Think about having to, every year, strip, sand, restain, all the costs involved in doing so, 1,000 more splinters. I just use soap and water to clean this, but I could have done that at even a quarter of the time with a pressure washer.
So many more reasons to make the Trex decision.